vaccine is 95% effective after final trials. Last September, the president said he will opt for China and Russia's vaccines. He said Western countries are demanding reservation fees and are all about profit.
Pag hindi po tayo pumayag, baka makunglela tayo dun sa mga bansa na makakakuha ng vaccine. So alam ko po, nung una ayaw ni Presidente yan, pero nung nakita po niya yung listahan ng mga bansang nag-a-advance payment, hindi naman tayo magpapahuli, no?
As for granting the Food and Drugs Administration an emergency use authorization, Roque said the president has given it a thumbs up, although the formal document has yet to be signed. Through the EUA, the FDA could expedite the market approval of upcoming vaccines from 6 months to 21 days.
Hindi pa po nalalabas si Presidente executive order. Pero pag linabas na po yan ng Presidente at sinabi naman ni Presidente, ilalabas niya yan, mapapabilis po yung proseso ng paggamit ng mga bakuna.
The latest developments on vaccine testing has also shifted the attention to cold storage facilities. One importer of medical devices fears supply of freezers could soon run out. Greg Gregorio explains.
A partnership between Pfizer and BioNTech announced the results of the late-stage trial of their vaccine. They say the vaccine they developed turned out to be 95% effective with a 28-day period before the effects kick in. The percentage is based on their evaluation of 170 COVID-19 patients from 43,000 trial participants. Data show that out of the 170, 162 of them belong to the placebo group, while only 8 are part of the vaccine group. Among the participants in the trial, only headache and fatigue were the primary adverse effects recorded. According to Pfizer, the vaccine requires minus 70 degrees Celsius of storage temperature to maintain its potency. The US-based pharmaceutical company has developed specially designed thermal shippers using dry ice. In the Philippines, however, the ultra-low freezer requirement of the vaccine might be a challenge. Health officials earlier admitted that the government does not have such advanced facility.
Even in the US, where all of these trials are happening, sila din mismo, no? Meron silang ini-express na concern na pag ultra-low freezer ang requirement for storage, hindi rin nila kaya. So paano pa kaya tayo bilang developing country setting?
With this, a vaccine expert in the country warned about the possibility of the vaccine being wasted.
Kasi pag nasira ang cold chain or nawala sa temperature na 2 to 8 or kung ano man ang kailangang temperature ng bakuna, masisira siya, so hindi na siya effective.
But the government maintains that there are continuing talks with the private sector on the matter. For one, Sahar Pharma, a private importer of medical devices, is planning to upgrade its existing cold storage. According to the company, an ultra-low freezer from abroad costs around $10,000 to $15,000 US. The cold storage could possibly be set up in the country within 4 weeks once the equipment arrived from China. It notes, however, that the supply of the special type of vaccine storage facility may eventually decline.
Because even in developed countries, there's a lack of such freezers. And once the vaccine becomes available, all countries are trying to deploy it, distribute it.
The Health Department, for its part, assures that they are considering all complexities of vaccine candidates.
Tinitignan natin kung magkano ang bakuna. Tinitignan natin ano ba yung mga logistical requirements nitong bakuna na ito and what would be the challenges, no, of our health system.
Currently, the country is in talks with 17 foreign manufacturers, including Pfizer, Moderna, and Russia's Gamaleya. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said there are 3 ways by which the country can finance the purchase of vaccines. First is through the Government Procurement Act or Bayanihan 2. The government can also opt for bilateral or multilateral loans with the likes of the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. And lastly, private sector financing through a tripartite agreement is also an option. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
The Food and Drug Administration believes vaccine makers would soon seek emergency use permits in the country once the agency is formally allowed to grant such authority. During today's state public briefing, FDA Director General Eric Domingo said other countries such as Russia and China have already issued EUAs for experimental vaccines. The United States is expected to hand Pfizer a similar permit. Domingo noted that EUAs are granted to vaccines that have shown high levels of efficacy and benefits. He said vaccine makers are not required to conduct clinical trials in the Philippines in order to register for commercial use, but they must ensure compatibility. Domingo said at least 5 vaccine manufacturers are looking to conduct clinical trials in the Philippines.
Kailangan maipakita nila na yung kanilang produkto, halimbawa yung kanilang bakuna, ay magiging mabisa rin sa mga katulad natin, kalahi natin, Pilipino o kaya Asyano, at na ang produkto nila pag dinala dito sa Pilipinas, doon po sa environment dito, halimbawa sa init dito, ay magiging stable din at hindi po siya magiging problema.
Senators are questioning the Social Welfare Department's 83 billion peso fund that remains unspent while many COVID-19 affected households are still clamoring for subsidies. Camille Samonte with this report.
Residents of Barangay Pasong Putik in Quezon City lined up as early as 6 a.m. last Tuesday for the distribution of the second tranche of the Social Amelioration Program. In a video sent to News 5, residents are seen cramped up inside a covered court as they wait for their payout. Some of them were not wearing face masks. Residents who lined up early complained that they were not called after failing to reach the cut-off time. The LGU, however, clarified that they had to stop the distribution on that day because of the unexpected crowd.
Yung nakaschedule ng umaga, hindi pumunta ng umaga, pumunta ng hapon. Yung nakaschedule ng hapon, pumunta ng umaga. So ano mo expect mo? Talagang grabe ang tao. No? Kaya ang ginawa namin ay gumawa kami ng stub na merong date at merong oras. So kailangan din kasi nating disiplinahin ng tao.
The barangay official added that many residents were also confused as many of them were expecting to receive another tranche of cash subsidy from the DSWD.
Hindi pa nga natatapos yung second tranche lahat, magpo-post ulit sila na mayroong third tranche.
The DSWD clarified that there will be no third tranche of the SAP under the Bayanihan 2.
We just would like to clarify that the emergency subsidy na ibinibigay natin under Bayanihan 2 ay hindi continuation ng SAP ng Bayanihan 1. Bakit? Kasi iba po yung beneficiaries natin sa Bayanihan 2 and likewise, one time lang po yung assistance na ipoprovide natin.
The Bayanihan 2 cash subsidy is provided to low-income families in areas placed under gradual lockdown starting September 13. They are entitled to receive a one-time emergency cash subsidy ranging from 5,000 pesos to 8,000 pesos. But Jay Garcia, who lost his job during the lockdown, believes that the government should still provide cash assistance. He is yet to receive his payout for the first and second tranches of the cash subsidy.
Napakaraming biktima Hindi lang ng pagkaroon ng pandemya, kundi ng bagyo At saka yung layoff ng mga nagtatrabaho at saka yung mga transportation, katulad ko, driver ako. Paano ako mamamasada kung lahat ang daming bawal?
During the Senate budget deliberations on Tuesday, senators learned that DSWD has over 83 billion pesos unspent funds from allocations in previous budgets and 2 bayanihan laws. Senator Amy Marcos said that DSWD has 75 million pesos in unspent funds for 2020, while some 6.7 billion pesos from the 2 bayanihan laws remain unobligated. The agency also has 1.5 billion pesos in unused funds from 2019. The senators then agreed to file a resolution urging DSWD to release the funds to aid Filipinos afflicted with COVID-19 or were victims of typhoons. The DSWD explained that the unused funds have been programmed for the implementation of various programs for the remaining months of this year.
Itong pondo na nabanggit sa Senate hearing ay nakaprogram na po or nakalaan sa iba't ibang programa po at serbisyo ng DSWD. At ito ay ipapatupad at sinisikap ng DSWD to fully utilize this amount until the end of the year.
The DSWD have recorded over 40 million beneficiaries who received their SAP already, while payout are still ongoing in some areas in Luzon and other provinces. For News 5, Camille Samonte, We Are One News.
We'll go for a quick break. When the big story returns, the country's policy rates reach a new low as the central bank slashes interest rates anew to keep the economy afloat. And the Philippines is no longer part of the top 20 countries when it comes to English proficiency. The details later. Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. Cagayan Valley's agriculture sector is still struggling to recover from losses due to Typhoon Gilas. Experts now warn that there will be dismal farm output in the fourth quarter. Romel Lopez is on the ground to give us updates. Romel, kamusta dyan?
Yes, Robbie, the agricultural sector in Cagayan has been heavily battered due to Typhoon Ulysses. Many typhoon victims, meanwhile, are already fed up as almost all of them remain empty-handed due to the scarce distribution of relief goods.
In a public market in Lamulong, a relief distribution went wrong as hundreds scrambled for a buckshop good. Edita collapsed due to the commotion. Her companions said they were tilling the fields when they heard the supposed good news.
Hindi ko naman nato akalain na ganito yung mangyari. Sa kasama nag-faint na. Bakit? Sinakyan daw ng dalawang babae.
As for the bid, this is the first time his family will receive goods since Ulysses struck.
Itong Nobyembre sana, magtanim sana pero nabaha na, sir. Oh, sir, kawawa naman ako.
His rice field is still submerged in floodwater. He said the Agriculture Department vowed to give them cash assistance after the province lost millions worth of palay, corn, and other high-value crops due to Ulysses. But in his 4 decades of farming, David has grown skeptical.
Baka ibubulsa yung mga ayuda na binibigay sa magsasaka dito, sir.
Bakit hindi nakakarating?
Hindi po natikman pang mga ayuda, sir.
Sa edad mong yan, wala ka pa?
Mga edad kong 50, wala pa akong natanggap.
The farmers said they can no longer cash in on their harvest. Their damaged crops will be used for personal consumption instead. Officials estimate that the agricultural damage in the province reached at least 448 million pesos. Losses to livestock alone are pegged at 8 million pesos. About 12,000 hectares of arable land were also damaged. The farm losses in Cagayan has wide consequences in the country's agricultural output. A Business World report cited the data from the Philippine Statistics Authority, which showed that Cagayan accounted for 6.7% of the country's total farm output last year. It also produces 14.1% of the country's palay. In the program agenda, Agriculture Secretary William Dar revised downward the sector's growth target for the year to 1.5%. The DA assures the farmer that it will distribute 8 billion pesos worth of seeds and fertilizers.
Ang unang response ng kagawaran ng Pag-asa ay immobilize yung Philippine Crop Insurance. Magbigay ng 10 to 15,000 pesos kada enrolled and registered and affected farmers.
Dar added that each farmer may apply for a loan worth 25,000 pesos, which is payable in 10 years and has no interest rate.
Robbie, Cagayan's neighboring province of Isabela was likewise severely hit by the typhoon. More than 4,500 hectares of agricultural land in the area were badly affected. Isabela warns of a possible spike in prices of feeds. Robbie?
Maraming salamat. That was Romel Lopez reporting live from Cagayan. Now, the death toll from Typhoon Ulysses remains at 73. That's according to the latest report of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. The number of injured and missing persons also remains unchanged at 24 and 19 respectively. More than 3.5 million individuals, or around 835,000 families, were displaced. More than 55,000 families are in evacuation centers. Damage to agriculture brought by Ulysses, meanwhile, rose to 4 billion pesos, while damage to infrastructure climbed to 6 billion pesos. As for Magat Dam, NDRRMC spokesperson Peter Galvez says operators followed protocols in releasing water. He adds that ample issuances or announcements were given. Galvez also said that the dam releases were for mitigation measures to prevent the dam's breakage. According to the NDRRMC spokesperson, Magat Dam only has a minimal share in the amount of water in the Cagayan River's basin.
And that Magat Dam in the whole Cagayan River basin only contributes 15% of all the water that's in the basin. So majority of the water that is in Cagayan River comes from the other tributaries. There are approximately 20 tributaries, 20 main tributaries.
And these are the other big stories today. Motorists taking the Cavitex and Calax no longer have to endure long lines for the installation of RFID stickers, as they can now register online. Under Metro Pacific Tollway's online RFID registration and appointment system, motorists just have to scan a QR code on Cavitex Facebook page. They may then head to 8 installation centers and then present the confirmation code, which will be sent via email. MPTC says they will still accept RFID registrations beyond the December 1 deadline. MPTC will also add more installation centers that will accept online reservations. The country slid further in its ranking in English proficiency. The Philippines failed to make it to Education First's top 20 list for English proficiency. It dropped 7 spots to the 27th place out of 100 countries. Despite the lower rank, the firm noted that Filipinos still have high English proficiency, garnering a score of 562 out of 700. The Philippines also placed second best in Asia, next to Singapore. In a surprise move, the central bank cut benchmark interest rates further by 25 basis points to a new all-time low of 2% in a bid to revive economic activity. Interest rates on overnight deposit and lending facilities were likewise slashed to 1.5% and 2.5% respectively. BSP Governor Ben Diokno said that while GDP contraction slowed in the third quarter, recent calamities can pose strong headwinds to economic recovery. Diokno also noted that the Monetary Board saw enough space for further easing with a benign inflation environment. Public Works Secretary Mark Villar has yet to outrun corruption accusations in his agency, although President Duterte himself has repeatedly given him a vote of confidence. But the Anti-Corruption Commission has some advice for the Secretary. Jenny Dongon tells us more.
In President Duterte's eyes, Public Works Secretary Mark Villar is clean when it comes to corruption, at least.
Secretary Villar, marami pera, hindi ang kailangan mangurakot. Ang problema sa baba, malakas pa rin hanggang ngayon.
The DPWH and Secretary Villar had been the subject of scrutiny following deliberations on the 2021 national budget, where some local infrastructure projects are in question. But Senator Panfilo Lacson, who has been branded as having a sharp eye for budget insertions, agreed with the president that Villar doesn't need to dip his fingers in corruption given his financial status.
As I speak, we haven't heard, even from the rumor mill, that Secretary Villar has dipped his fingers into any of the shenanigans that some sectors say are almost of public knowledge in the agency.
Lacson added that he is not questioning Villar's integrity.
I'd like to state for the record that I agree with President Duterte, albeit not completely, that Secretary Villar is not corrupt. Not because he is rich, but because he is not corrupt, period.
But one agency believes Villar should go the extra mile in protecting the DPWH from corruption. Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission Chairman Dante Jimenez urged Villar to reshuffle his office regional heads in the country amid ongoing investigations into the DPWH. Jimenez said they found some lawmakers who are allegedly participating in the implementation of questionable projects in their districts.
Alam niyo bakit dapat ma-reshuffle ang mga district engineers? Because of the public perception. Hawak daw sa leeg ng ibang mga politiko.
Jimenez refused to give names, but he said that they are in close coordination with the Department of Justice, which heads Duterte's corruption task force. The PACC is set to release the names of the alleged corrupt officials in a week or two as investigation continue. As of press time, Secretary Villar has yet to issue a statement in response to the PACC's call for a management reshuffle. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, We Are One News.
We'll pause for another break. When we return, an ally of Speaker Lord Alan Velasco hints that they may not be done with a shakeup in the House leadership. And a returning coach will man the Gilas squad as they take their chances in the Fiba Asia Cup Qualifiers. The detail later. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. Former House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano denounced the continuing revamp of leaders at the lower house as more of his allies are losing their posts to the Velasco-led chamber. Ria Fernandez with the details.
At least one ally of former House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano said he was surprised with his removal as Deputy Speaker on Wednesday night. Laguna Representative Dan Fernandez said he was doing relief work when he learned of his ouster. Fernandez thought that all is well following the National Unity Party's meeting with then newly seated Speaker Lord Alan Velasco. The NUP vocally backed Cayetano during the House leadership tussle.
Kasi leadership's call din yan. I think it was taken against me, yung paninindigan natin kay former Speaker Alan Cayetano. At I think I hurt them somehow, no? And that's the reason why siguro na talagang tinanggal tayo.
Aside from Fernandez, the Velasco-led House also removed Congressman Raneo Abu and Fred Denil Castro from the same post. This came over a month after Cayetano's staunchest ally, Camarines Sur Representative El Rey Villafuerte, was booted out as Deputy Speaker for Finance. Filling in the three vacancies were Cagayan de Oro Representative Rufus Rodriguez, Buhay Party List Representative Lito Atienza, and Las Piñas City Representative Camille Villar. But a few hours later, Villar, who is a Nacionalista party mate of Cayetano, declined her election via a letter to Velasco. In an ambush interview, Cayetano reiterated that he and Velasco had a pact in front of President Rodrigo Duterte. That is, there will be no revamp under their term-sharing agreement. He also vouched for the hard work of his ousted allies.
Pero ganyan po talaga kasi sa politika po, no? Pero kung napaalala nila po sa amin before na pag may usapan dapat matupad, siguro yun na lang ang message ko. Na kung ano man ang usapan, dapat matupad.
Cayetano hopes that Congress has seen the last of these changes.
Alam niyo po, 80 to 90% sa Kongreso supportive po sa administration. So it doesn't matter kung malapit sila kay Alan Cayetano o kay Alan Velasco. Ang importante po, isang team lang kami sa administrasyon. So sana po, huli na sana yun at maayos na. Kasi hindi ko talaga masabi yung mangyayari dahil hindi ko naman kontrolado ang kalooban ng lahat ng kongresista.
However, Senior Deputy Speaker Doy Leachon said the changes made were necessary for the good of the House. He said they decided based on the allocation of positions per political party, seniority, competency, as well as the attitude towards Velasco's speakership.
Mahirap din naman yung you say bad things about the current leadership. Wala namang problema if you can comment or say some commentaries against the current leadership, but then you medyo below the belt naman is not even acceptable.
Asked if more representatives will lose their plum posts, Leachon said,
Hindi ko naman sinabing marami, but then hindi pa naman kasi tapos yung evaluation and reassessment of the membership.
For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
In sports, Gilas Pilipinas named its head coach for this month's window of the 2021 Fiba Asia Cup Qualifiers. The Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas announced that Jongwi Chico will be calling the shots for the national team. Chico was previously the assistant coach of Chot Reyes and the deputy of Tim Cone in the Southeast Asian Games, where the country bagged gold. SBP President Al Pandillo said the all-amateur squad has already geared up and will undergo training in Laguna.
So we were prepared to play 2 games against Thailand and Korea. There's some messaging that if we're that they want us to play Indonesia, we don't feel like that's fair to us because that is not scheduled until the next window in February, where we play Korea and Indonesia. So our stand today is we want to follow the calendar that the competition calendar that they've given us, and that's where we stand today.
COVID-19 casualties in the United States have surpassed 250,000, while total infections have reached more than 11.5 million. So far, the United States still tops the list of COVID-19 hit countries, having the most number of cases and deaths worldwide and accounting for about 20% of the global caseload and death toll. President-elect Joe Biden has formed a coronavirus task force to handle the swelling cases and casualties, which he said could reach 400,000 by January 2021. But with the General Services Administration yet to ascertain its victory, Biden said his incoming administration's response might be slowed down by months as they have yet to get hold of data on the White House COVID response. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow, 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, you can visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News. Good evening.